for the second portion. It's not running out of space. It is doing something else. Something, kind of broke it. Okay, so the original topic was how to get back to your TinyDB and double check the content is right. So let's go to the location of where it is installed and then run a/add. And this time we want to start a shell. In other words, we want to interact with the Android system using a text interface. You go to /data. Okay, CD is changed directory, so we are now changing to root data/data, which is not a typo. It is just the strange place for the folder, strange name for the folder name. And then you can go to your application. So when you go to your application, for instance, I don't have anything that has a TinyDB, but if you go here to anything that has a TinyDB setup, app inventor.ai _w0006887f1. When you get to that folder, you should see either in lib or in here, you should see a TinyDB file. And it's an XML file. You can check the content of the XML file and see if it has the right content. And this also gives you the option of actually injecting and initialize the TinyDB to begin with if it comes with the XML file. But you can also send me your application and kind of describe what it is supposed to do, and it is doing something other than what it is supposed to do. Anything else? Any other questions related to your project? Anything that you guys want to figure out how to do? Yep.
I was struggling with I wanted to use a notifier, and I just couldn't figure out how to actually program the button within the notifier. Like it pops up and gives you a couple options.
Okay.
I wasn't sure how to actually.
All right. So let's take a look at that.
Those buttons.
All right. So we'll use the same. Suppose we can do the same thing here. So with this one, I can use a button to trigger a notifier to start up. So we go to notifier. There we go. And then go back to blocks to specify what to do when the button is clicked. So we can say when the button is clicked, do something about a notifier. So which one are you planning to do?
I was sort of playing with a couple of them, but I basically just wanted to say, like, are you sure you actually want to do this? Like, are you sure you actually want to close that screen?
Okay, so the user has a choice to make, and then you want to know which,
yes or no.
how the user chose. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, this is the more general one. You are allowed to have 3 buttons basically. You have one button to say one thing, one button to say something else, and then cancel, which is the last one. So according to the text here, cancelable is true. There will be an additional cancel button. So you can basically have up to 3 buttons. Pressing the button will raise the after choosing event. The choice parameter to after choosing will be the text on the button that was pressed. Okay, so this may be what you need. So we'll go ahead and specify this in our button click. The message is really just whatever is appearing in the dialog box. So we'll just say pick something that is somewhat generic. Okay, so we'll just say choose wisely from Indiana Jones, the Holy Grail. And then the title we'll pick The Old Knight Says. Okay. So now with the buttons, okay. One is a wooden container.
Rail.
Rail. And the other one I'll call it bling bling rail. How's that? chrome plated with a spinner. Spinner on a grail. You know, that's a. Okay, so we also want to make it cancelable. Okay, and then we have to capture this event, because what happens is this block is done as soon as the dialog box pops up. Okay, so and then it just says I'm done. So when you click a button, you know, one of the three buttons here, what happens is it will raise another event, and you need another event handler to capture that. So the other event handler is under notifier 1, and then you basically say after choosing, you know, then you can process it. And I'm not going to process anything here. All I'm going to do is to reflect what the choice is with a label. So we go back to designer here and go to label, and we just put a label under the button here so that we can see, you know, what is the choice or what is the text of the choice that the user has chosen. So we go to blocks, and all we will do here is to go to label 1 and then set the text of label 1 to whatever choice is, like so. Okay, so we go to the emulator, which now has the application running, and we just click it, and it says, the old dice says choose wisely, and then we have all three buttons here. So if I click wooden grail, and you can see the label is now updated to wooden grail. So this is how you can get the choice of the user, and then you can do whatever you want, you know, at that point. You compare it to something and give the user, you know, the appropriate feedback. Now what I'm curious is, what if cancel is clicked? Okay, would it actually raise an event, or would it not even raise an event at all and cancel is clicked? So when cancel is clicked, it is treated just like another button, and cancel is the text of that, you know, particular button. Which makes sense, because, you know, when somebody, you know, specifies cancel to an operation, your application probably wants to know about it also, and say, okay, I see that you want to cancel this operation, and then that gives you a chance of saying, but doing this, you know, may cause, you know, these harmful effects and whatnot. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay.
Because with just the notifier there, it just says button 1 and button 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you actually program anything in there?
Right.
But you just do that after.
Right.
After whatever.
Yeah. You have to specify after choosing, then you can do the processing over there. Now, after choosing can also, you know, do something that can cause other events to follow later on. Like, you know, you can do an activity starter right at this point. So if the dialog box is to ask, you know, do you want to do something which requires the starting of another application, you can have activity starter to start here, you know, because that triggers the other event. But basically, this is just a trigger point of, you know, when you click a button in the dialog box, this, you know, gets an event, and depending on which button is clicked, the choice here reflects that. This also brings up an interesting point, you know, because, you know, if you do something like this, it is probably not a good idea to use, you know, literal text here. It's probably a better idea to use global variables for each one of these strings, so that you don't mistype something when you're trying to match which one you want to match with. So I'll kind of illustrate the concept here. So in here, let's just say that, you know, I want to do some processing, okay, and I will say, you know, use a conditional statement block here. Oops, that's the wrong one. Conditional statement block here, and let's just say that I want to make it so that it matches the movie. Okay, so so I will compare the choice made by the end user to, you know, something. And if I just retype, you know, wooden grail here, there's a chance that I can have a little typo. Then it won't work, right? So the idea is, do not use, you know, these literal text all over the place, because it depends a lot on, are you typing exactly the same way? If there's an extra space, it doesn't work. If the case is not matching, it doesn't work. So the idea is to use a global variable so that you consistently just use the value of the global variable for this purpose. So the way I usually do it is I would initialize a global variable, and I will name these, specially. I would start with str for string, and then I would just say, okay, the string is reflecting like wood and grail, and it will just be initialized to text here. But then I won't use this anymore throughout the program. What I would do instead, or this is supposed to be equal symbol here, but what I would do instead is to use the get method and just make use of the global variable wherever wood and grail is expected. So I would use the same one here. So this way, if I had a typo, the typo would be consistent. The worst thing that can happen is you type wood and grail and do it right for the most part throughout the code. But if there is one place that you type it in a wrong way, that logic is not going to work. And it will be really hard to catch it, because now you have to find out all the places where you type that particular string and visually check that they are all correct. And missing a space or having an extra space, those, especially a trailing space, those are really hard to catch when you're just visually looking at it. So the way I usually recommend people to do it is to do it this way. You don't have to do it this way, but it might save you a lot of time, later on. Okay. Any other questions? Those are all very good questions. So if there are no questions, we are done for today. What you want to do is to kind of start to work on your application, not in full force, but at least go through what you need to do with your application. Just try out bits and pieces first, okay? And if there's one bit or one piece that you think, I'm not quite sure how to do it, bring it to the class, okay? So I become your consultant. I can help you figure out how to do something, or answer the question whether it is even doable in App Inventor or not. You mean this?
Yeah, I like to see that choice thing. There we go.
Yep.
I'm just a little confused for the next class. The question 3, like the practice that you posted online. I'm having a little trouble understanding when X is getting updated. Because you had the pre, where it was like ++X, and then you updated that, or you compared that to B, and then had a post update.
Okay. Let me turn off the recorder for this class.